If you clicked on this video, you probably like subwoofers. Well, this is the SVS PB3000 13-inch home subwoofer. This subwoofer has a response down to 16 Hz, which we will confirm with measurements, and it puts out 2500 peak watts, but it also has one more advanced trick up its sleeve. So if you are looking for something to shake your room that has some cool tech built in for convenience, this may be it. So stick around to find out. I'm Barrett, this is Spec of Tech. Welcome to the channel. In the very near future, I do have an exciting video coming. I'll be doing a comparison of the SVS PB3000 and the Paradigm Defiance X15. Make sure that you stay tuned for that video. But in today's video, we are going to do a quick unboxing to show you what is in the box. We'll cover some quick basic specs. We'll also show you how the subwoofer measures, and we'll show you some sound demos while we review the SVS PB3000 subwoofer. So first things first, let's get this thing out of the box. All right, so let's get into this PB3000 box. I actually have some more unboxings to do, so today's gonna be a busy day, but I forgot to grab my knife before getting my trusty lapel mic leash on, so we're just gonna do this the old-fashioned way by hand. So obviously, like most subwoofers and most speakers nowadays, you wanna open this up from the bottom first. And then once you open it, it gives you instructions here. So leaving all integer packaging in place, blah, blah, blah. So you open this up, and then you want to flip it over once you've opened up the bottom. So easy breezy. I have boxes all over the room right now for all the unboxings that I have coming, because I'm going to be doing a lot of comparisons with the R200 speakers, the R200 from Polk. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. I'm going to be unboxing some more bookshelves here in a second. So in the box, you got your registration, a little bit of a manual, power cable. Very nice packaging. SVS is very good at packaging their subwoofers now. Well, I guess they always have been since I've been buying them anyway. And then you have your two port plugs so that you can turn it into a sealed subwoofer. And your nice big heavy metal grill. So these two pieces of styrofoam are actually separated. So I guess what you can do is just kind of lift one end up and move that, and then just tilt this end up, and same thing. Now the plastic, there we go. So one of the main reasons I wanted to get the PB3000 was to compare it to my Paradigm X15s, but I will be doing a full review on this subwoofer on its own. So this is obviously black ash. They don't make the PB3000 in gloss, or I would have got gloss. Even though it's a fingerprint magnet, I think it looks really good. As you can see, the PB3000 may look unassuming by many enthusiast standards, but it does pack a punch. But before we prove that with some measurements and some demos, let's talk some quick specs so that you know what we're dealing with here. The PB3000 is regularly priced at $15.99 US, but for current pricing, click the link down in the description below. The current pricing in Canada is $21.99, and if you are in Canada, I suggest you order your SVS products from Amir at Summit Hi-Fi, which is exactly where I ordered this one from. His customer service really is second to none. I've dropped a link down in the description as well. And for that price, you are getting a ported enclosure measuring 21.9 inches high, 18.3 inches wide, and 26 inches deep, weighing in at 82.2 pounds. I know this isn't exactly small, but if you want powerful output from a ported subwoofer, it does need to have some size to it. I found the size of the PB3000 to be about perfect, and I do prefer its size over my Paradigm X15 subwoofers. But the enclosure has a little trick up its sleeve. Yes, it's a ported enclosure, but you can plug the ports to turn this subwoofer into a sealed subwoofer for those that might prefer it. I personally prefer the ported mode simply because it does offer a more violent bass experience. If you would like to see a video comparing the sealed mode to the ported mode, let me know down in the comments below, and maybe I'll do a video covering that in the future. But back to the subwoofer, producing the powerful bass is a 13-inch high excursion driver with a split wound voice coil, which is claimed to help the magnetics at max excursion while improving its efficiency. Powering that 13-inch driver is an 800 watt RMS and 2500 watt peak sledge amplifier. This amplifier also has a trick up its sleeve. It has Bluetooth so that you can download the SVS app from the Google Play or the Apple Store. It opens up a wide variety of customizations for those of you that like to fine-tune things without even having to get up out of your chair. We'll cover that in more detail a little later in the video. First, let's listen to some demos. Now that you've seen what it can do, let me do my best to put it into words. The PB3000, although small in comparison to many of the other subwoofers I've had in this room, does an excellent job exciting the room, and I'm sure that you heard that in the demos. My fireplace, among other things, were shaking quite violently. I would describe the bass from this driver as violent, especially when considering it is only a 13-inch driver. But before we get too deep into the sound quality and Bluetooth app features, I want to talk about the build quality and aesthetics. The PB3000 comes with a black ash finish that is well done, and it does have some texture to it. It looks to be of good quality, and as long as you're okay with black ash, you should be happy with this finish at this price point. The grille is solid metal, and although it does attach with peg and grommets, it does look good and it is built very durable. I just wish that SVS would adopt magnetic grills, but I wish that for all speakers and subs that don't have them. The 13-inch driver is also quite robust with an aluminum cast basket with a 25-pound motor structure. It is beefy and definitely does the job. When it comes to the amplifier powering the driver, this is where I think the SVS design team did an exceptional job, except for the fact that it's missing one key thing in my opinion, and that's an XLR connection. But it does have RCA left and right inputs and outputs. There is a trigger input as well as a USB port for wireless adapter, which is a nice addition. The amp does have a nice clean, simple design for its controls as well, but in my opinion, you should just use the app for simplicity. The app homepage allows you to adjust the volume or gain. You can also choose between some already programmed presets like movie or music, or you can even create your own preset. The app also has many other functions like the ability to adjust the subwoofer to your liking with a PEQ. You can adjust your phase, the low pass filter, your port tuning, and more. For those that do like to change things depending on the content, it really is a handy feature. But to sum up the build quality and aesthetic, I really do like it. SVS has done a great job with the design of this subwoofer, and it does have a great looking aesthetic that provides a great balance of looks, size, and performance. Speaking of performance, let's have a look at some REW measurements that I took in my room, and then we'll get into the sound quality. Keep in mind when looking at these measurements that my room is causing most of the anomalies in the measurement, and I had my room calibration disabled. The measurements are only of the subwoofer. I did not have my front speakers turned on. In this snapshot here, this is a compression testing when I had the PB3000 in the front right corner of my room. As you can see, I was hitting obvious compression at -22 master volume. So if we look at the second last response line, that is pretty much the max output of this subwoofer in my room before compression sets in. We're hitting 100 dB at 16 Hz with a peak SPL at 32 Hz of 106 dB. Now let's take a look at this snapshot here, which is compression testing of the subwoofer in the front left side of my room. If you look at the second line from the top, it isn't 100% linear, but close enough. We will use this as our peak performance before more obvious compression set in. We're at about 102 dB at 16 Hz, and our peak output was 23 Hz at 109 decibels. And as you can see from these responses, placement changes everything. And measurements like this really show how important good subwoofer placement can be. It also shows how challenging my room can be, but I digress. Overall, I am happy with the performance from the 13-inch driver. With proper placement and room calibration, you should be able to get a fairly linear response down to about 16 Hz, but that all depends on your room, of course. All right, so now let's move along to sound quality. The first thing I noticed about the PB3000 is that it really excites my room, and it shows me where all my rattles are. In my defense, though, when listening at reasonable levels, my room does not rattle like you heard it in the demos. At reasonable levels, you don't really hear a rattle unless there's an extreme LFE scene. But when demoing the PB3000 at much louder than normal volumes, it makes my fireplace rattle to an extreme degree. The PB3000 also has a deep bass presentation to it, which makes it a really good companion for a home theater. It is fairly clean bass, but at the same time, it does have a throaty low tone to it that is just hard to put into words. This isn't to say that the PB3000 doesn't do well with music, because it absolutely does. Being a 13-inch driver, it is quite quick. It has a nice sharp punch to it, but it also provides a nice rumble when it's called for. There's one slight drawback though, because nothing is ever really perfect. The PB3000 has 2 front-firing ports, and when pushed, you will hear air movement in those ports. That is known as chuffing. As with most ported subwoofers, it will only be noticeable when pushing the subwoofer close to its limits. So if you do plan on adding 2, 3, or even 4 of these in your room, that will help eliminate the chances of you experiencing port noise. With that said, this is a challenge for any ported subwoofer. It's just the nature of the ported design. But some do handle it better than others. I would say that the PB3000 is kind of in the middle of the road for the port noise. I have heard better, but I've also heard worse. With that aside, and to put it simply, I would say that the PB3000 demonstrates a nice balance of bass that works very well for music and exceptionally well for movies. It's hard to find a subwoofer this size that will excite your room as much as the PB3000 did for mine, and by excite my room, I mean that it has enough powerful bass to shake the room quite violently. I have experienced some pretty extreme and large subwoofers in my room. Even with that in mind, all in all, I like the PB3000, and I think that anyone looking at getting into the lower levels of what we bass heads like to call big boy bass, the PB3000 is a great place to start. You get a good looking subwoofer that has good performance, a handy app, and good sound quality, packaged in something small enough that it should work for most rooms. The only danger is that once you get a taste of the bass the PB3000 has to offer, you may just start down the rabbit hole of wanting bigger and badder bass. But along with that bigger bass, the enclosures and price typically get bigger also. Again, drop your comments down below if you would like to see a comparison of the PB3000 sealed versus ported mode. Stay tuned on the channel for the comparison between the PB3000 and the Paradigm Defiance X15. Subscribe and tick that bell icon to be notified when that video drops. Remember to enjoy your systems. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.